was a place where there's no trouble, no more pain, no more struggle.
You guys, I'm so excited for you to meet my friend Laura. I wish that you could meet her in person because she just has the nicest smile. But I've known her for many years, and I don't know her in a professional way. I know that she's very involved, and I know that she works in the sort of sustainability field, and I admire her so much. I just think she's so freaking smart, and she doesn't make me feel like I'm less smart. And she knows so much about the recycling world. So I really wanted to try to get her on during the month of July, being the No Plastic July theme. And I just think she has so much to add and to teach me. And if you need to know, then hopefully you'll learn something as well. That's kind of my point here. Just to learn more and maybe learn some new things to try. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope that you really enjoy this. I'm so excited. Welcome, folks. Today I am speaking with my I want to say old friend, but we've been friends for a long time. Her name is Laura Ludwig, and she is pretty fabulous. Laura and I we met, has it been like close to 30 years, right? It's been a long time.
Yeah, it was definitely 25 years.
Yeah, probably 25-ish. Okay, that's fine. That's still a long time. And we were singing in choir together, and just over the years we've kept in touch and seen each other a lot, less now since she's living in Cape Cod, and she has a pretty fabulous life there. But so Laura, you and I have had several conversations through Facebook, I guess generally Facebook, about recycling, but just in general, you're so involved in taking care of the area around you, which I'm so inspired by that. Wherever you go, like, you are taking care, you'll pick up off the side of the road or whatever, like, it's so important to you. And you also, where you're living now, you organize cleanup days on the beach. And Cape Cod has a lot of beaches. Tell me, I know that you organize cleanup days on the Cape Cod beaches, and I also know that you're involved in organizations with whales and fishing gear, as well as and while you're supporting the lobstermen. So can you just tell us a little bit about what you're up to around that?
Sure. I am very involved with working with lobstermen, most commercial lobstermen. And that started when I lived in Maine, working at the Maine Department of Marine Resources, and then at the Gulf of Maine Lobster Foundation. And during those years, which was about 12 years or so at those places, I really developed a real sympathy, I guess, for the commercial lobster industry, dealing with this intractable problem of whale entanglements. And it's a serious problem where the two things intersect, where lobstering and whales intersect. There's always a potential for whales to be caught in rope. And my work was always on the gear itself, not so much with the whales, but trying to modify the gear so that it might not harm whales as much, or might be easier to get off of whales if they did get entangled. So I did a lot of research on and experimentation on fishing gear. And as a result of some of the work that was done during the early 2000s, there were regulations put into place that required fishermen to change their gear in a certain way, so that basically they had to get rid of all the float rope. And that was my biggest job in Maine, was buying back and disposing of all of their ground lines. And that's a lot of rope. It was over 2 million pounds of rope. And that's a lot of rope. You can do a lot with that rope. And so I wound up getting that into the hands of artists and recyclers over time. So that's where all the rope doormats came from.
Yay for
A
the
lot of
rope
people,
doormats.
yay. You can wipe your feet on rope that was salvaged from the Maine lobster fishery. And that continues to this day. People are still, using rope to make doormats, of course. So, but that's just one piece of it. And then when I started to do the research on the replacement rope, which was called sinking rope, that presented a problem because it wasn't recyclable. It wasn't, it wasn't easy to get rid of. And so I wound up working with artists who could use this other type of rope in weaving sculptures. So we did a lot with this one artist named Orly Ganger, and she had, these massive woven sculptures that took hundreds of thousands of pounds of rope out of the waste stream. So anyways, we were so I'm making this too long of a story, but basically what winds up happening when you spend all this time trying to figure out a way to responsibly dispose of plastic fishing gear, you learn about other plastics and other impacts of other trash. And that's what really got me going on plastics in the ocean. So I've been for the past 10 or 12 years working on a two-pronged effort to try to not only dispose of things properly, whether it's rope or lobster traps or chip bags or yogurt containers or whatever, but also to either prevent the stuff from getting lost in the ocean and to figure out what the source of the stuff is so that you can actually make a change at the consumer level. Yeah. So, for example, like balloons, for example, is a great piece of data. You know how many balloons we find on our beach cleanups?
Oh, I can't even imagine, especially in
A
Cape
lot.
Cod. Yeah.
It's, balloons are interesting because they travel from all over. These are not balloons that are released in Cape Cod, for example. They're balloons that are released in Vermont or
Oh
New
my
Hampshire.
gosh.
Oh yeah. Or perhaps Ohio, depending on the type of balloon. The prevailing winds here just bring the balloons right to the beaches, and that's where they get caught. Either that or they land on the ocean and, float across the ocean for a while. So really, collecting the information about how many we find and what types they are and the location that we find them, that's data that is really useful for local municipalities or regions to push for legislation, to say, what, this is a problem. Releasing helium balloons should not be allowed, and here's why. So that's the kind of thing that I've been really focusing on for about 10 years, Amy, is like getting the statistics about the trash that we're finding on our beaches and using those numbers to help people put laws in place or change their behaviors. Like, for example, how many people still drink coffee out of a styrofoam cup?
Oh, I don't even want to know.
I don't know. Styrofoam
Oh.
has been banned in a lot of places as a result of our data. So we have collected so much styrofoam, and it's understood to be one of the most pernicious forms of plastic on the planet for health reasons, as well as, just pollution reasons. And as a result, many places have shifted over to so-called paper cups, which are a problem in and of themselves, but for a different reason, and then away from the extruded polystyrene, which is otherwise known as styrofoam. So I really think that, there are a lot of like-minded people out there who are trying really hard to remove single-use plastics from their life, but to do it at a systemic level requires data. So individuals can all make their own choices, but you really can't impact the companies that are making this stuff or the industry that makes this stuff unless you can really show some data. And that's really what I'm focused on these days.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that was a lot. Wow.
Well, you get me talking about plastic and I just keep going.
Right. Well, so, okay. Now, this is like so not even really related, but how do you track the waste to where it's coming from? You said that there are balloons that come from Vermont and, Ohio or wherever, but like how are you tracking that back?
You can't always track it back to its source. However, there's a couple things that help. Number one is some of this stuff has identifying information written right on it. It has the name of the car company or the school or the church. And you can look those things up when you get to your computer. And you just type it in and you see if something comes up. So that's how we've been able to identify some of the sources of things that float in the air, like balloons or plastic bags.
Okay.
Yep. And then another way you can do it is by looking at oceanography. So for fishing gear, we really, a lot of the stuff is required to have identifying information stamped right on it. So we can actually tell that some of the material comes right to Cape Cod from Rockland, Maine, for example, or from Cutler, Maine, or from Portland, Maine. So, oceanography is what it is, and circulation routes are pretty well established in the Gulf of Maine, which runs from New Brunswick all the way to Cape Cod. So we kind of know that what we're getting is coming from other places. Right. For the most part. And we do have what I would call shore-based trash, like stuff that flies out of pickup trucks and, spills out of heavily filled dumpsters. So we do have plenty of our own trash, but also I bet some of our trash winds up in the UK or Spain. So it's all circulation and wind and waves. So when you're surrounded by the ocean, as we are on Cape Cod, it can come from almost anywhere. So,
okay. And I have a couple other questions just from your talk about rope. So I know you said that there are so initially it was the float rope that you were looking for to be recycled, and so there are several artists. I know I've seen the rope the rope mats, welcome mats, done by lots of people. But then you said, which is amazing. I love those mats are amazing. Everyone go look one up. But then you said the replacement rope is a sink rope. So you're replacing a float rope with a sink rope? Is that, did I hear that?
You got it. And it kind of sounds weird. I realize that when you're not maybe involved with the lobster fishery, that might not make too much sense. But so real simply, if you can imagine the McDonald's symbol, the golden arches, that is what float rope does between lobster traps. So if you have a lobster trap at each of the bottom parts of the M, the float rope between them floats up to the water column.
So it's attached to the trap, but then it goes up.
Sorry. So it's actually attached to more than one trap. So that's the problem. If you're fishing just a single trap, then you have just one piece of line going from the trap to the buoy. But if you're fishing 20 traps all together in a trawl, then you have 19 of these little loops between the traps. So that's the float rope, which was kind of banned. It is banned on your ground line, which is the line that you run between your traps, in most of New England, if not all of Massachusetts, and then most of the Maine fishery. There are some inside areas that still are allowed to use that because it's so rocky in Maine, and there are very few, if any, whales in those areas. So at any rate, the new replacement ground line is sinking ground line, and that is intended to lay flat on the bottom of the ocean so as not to present an entanglement hazard to whales that may be swimming through. So that's what that's all about.
Yes. That's so smart. I learned so much already. And then, so you said that you didn't have to, but in your mind, you had to find some way to recycle that. And so can you just say the name of the artist that you found for the sink rope?
Sure. As the sink rope scrapes along the bottom of the ocean and hits the rocks, it wears out really quickly. So a lot of fishermen, a lot of lobstermen had to get rid of it and, get new stuff. And it's super expensive. So it was a real problem for quite a long time until people had started figuring out strategies to make it last longer. And in the meantime, there's an artist that I don't think she's doing as much work now because she has a family that takes a lot more time than when you're a single person. But her name is Orly Ganger, and she is an incredibly talented sculptor. And she basically works with rope. That has been her medium of choice for probably 20 years. And she's really evolved her art so that it is versatile, and I won't describe it in too much detail. I'll let you look it up and maybe post a link. But that's her medium. Some people use oil paints, some people use clay. Well, she uses rope, and she creates sort of monumental scale installations, and that was a really great outlet for this particular type of rope, because this rope is extremely heavy. It's softer to work with than the float rope is, so it's easier on your fingers if you're weaving it or crocheting it as she does. And it's the diameter was the right size for her. So I guess what I'm saying is that I'm really grateful to artists for providing us an opportunity to dispose of things in a way that actually is value added. And that's something, I was talking about how I'm focusing on data these days. Well, I'm also focusing on alternative methods of disposal for almost all the trash that I find. Instead of just dumping it, I try to sort it and count it, log it in our data sheets, and then store it and hope that someone might need it. So I have thousands and thousands of lobster trap ID tags. I have thousands of lobster trap escape fence, and I have hundreds of balloons and about 1 million pieces of small plastic, all very neatly organized out and behind my office. So if anybody needs any trash that's very well sorted, just let me know.
Yes. Any other artists, look Laura up. She's got the stuff. But so, yeah. Laura, you said the lady's name is Orly, Orly?
That's right. Last name Genger, Genger. She's just one of many artists that are working with these materials. And I have a list that I keep, a list of artists that are interested in different types of either fishing gear or other debris. And I reach out to them periodically, and people just, avail themselves of my material quite regularly. In fact, I have a project going right now, Amy, that we're just about to make a public announcement on, where I've worked with the National Park Service here at the Cape Cod National Seashore to review 13 different proposals from artists who are interested in working with marine debris, as we call it. And the installation is going to be in place for Earth Day 2023. We have not announced the name of the artist yet, but stay tuned. And we will, that will be a sculpture that is to bring attention to the issue of marine debris on Cape Cod, and also feature the debris in the sculpture itself. So it's pretty exciting.
That's fantastic. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Wow. That is so, I learned a lot. I've known you forever, and I learned so much just now. My second, sort of major question, you answered a lot of it. So I just want to kind of, so the question was about civic responsibility and kind of tying in recycling to that. But you focus a lot on politics, and as far as recycling, what is right and what isn't. And I know you have a lot of opinions, and I value those so much, because I have opinions, but they're not really founded on anything. I just, and so where did that kind of wherewithal, where did that burn in you? Where did that fire start?
That's a great question. It's not something that I planned. Let me put it that way. I never planned to become educated in plastic trash issues. But I think as a byproduct of being passionate about the planet, I was raised in the woods. I was raised outdoors in a lot of ways, where I used to complain about my feet freezing, but now I understand that as a result of hanging out in the winters in Vermont, I really gained a great appreciation for nature. And I think when you have nature instilled at a young age, it kind of sticks with you. And then rears her beautiful head at various junctures. And it was really amazing to see the impacts that we all have on this planet. And I love the motto of, just, tread lightly and carry a big stick. I kind of feel like that's what we all should do, is just really like go lightly on this earth, but really be powerful in how we protect it. And for me, that has translated into understanding the sources of plastic, which is a petroleum-based product. And I have paid attention to it over time as plant-based plastics have been introduced into the scene. And I have a lot of opinions, but they're basically founded in the science. And I have opinions about the results. And I don't want to get too bogged down in it because it's pretty confusing. But I've paid attention to it daily for over a decade. And I'm not a professional at all. I'm not an expert at all. I am simply a person who has been trying to self-educate about this incredibly difficult problem, which is plastics on the planet. And some people call this the Anthropocene, which means the impacts of humans on the planet. I call it the Plasticine, because essentially you've got climate change as the number one problem on the planet. And the second problem on the planet that is, in my mind, the worst is plastics in terms of how the planet is impacted. And plastics contribute the manufacture, the excavation of the petroleum, the fossil fuels, the disposal. At every stage, plastic contributes to climate change. It contributes to the problem of climate change. And so if you have a fear of, the health of the planet, you may want to factor those two things in together and do your own research on that. As individuals, you can do a lot. You can just make sure that your money is not invested in the petroleum companies. I think that's probably the single biggest thing that any individual person could do. A lot of us have investments that, we've worked hard. We want to put our money in a place that can work for us. I mean, we've been trained to do this as, independent operators living in a very fortunate part of the planet where we can do this. But if you are making your money off of Exxon or Mobil, then you're part of the problem. And you can't, anything that you do for replacing your, straws with metal straws or something is not going to make a big difference. So it's really the economics of it are so powerful that, these little changes that we can make are really kind of a drop in the bucket. You asked me about recycling, Amy, and I just wanted to go there for a quick second. Recycling is awesome for newspaper, corrugated cardboard, steel, aluminum, glass, what else? Wood. You can recycle wood infinitely. However, it's not good for plastic. So recycling is sort of a non-starter for me. And I do a lot of education about this. There are some markets for some recycled plastics in our country. And right now, I believe that there is still a fairly good demand for number 1, number 2, and number 5, which is polyethylene terephthalate, low density polyethylene, and polypropylene. However, everything else gets confused because now you've got these so-called plant-based plastics that are still bearing the number 1 because the polymer is the same, but you can't process it the same way that the petroleum-based plastic is. So this is that rabbit hole I was referring to, and I'm not going to go too far down it, but if you do a little homework and you look at the so-called biodegradable plastic and the plant-based plastics, and you look into the recycling rates of these things, you will realize that replacing one plastic for another is really not the way to go. And to simply rule it out altogether is the only option that we have to try to reduce it. So grab your steel tumblers and your cloth shopping bags and make your way in the world lightly with a big stick.
Oh my gosh, that was so what I was looking for. You're exactly what I was looking for. I mean, I think it's for so many of us, it's like a mindset, I'm doing my part to recycle. And, we need to understand, like, in our brains, plastic is just not recyclable. Like, even though the recycling people say we can take this, it's not reusable. And so that, that for me is like, it's like a punch in the head. Like, no, stop plastic, stop
Well,
plastic. And so I think, the way
don't
that
beat
you just,
yourself up. Don't beat yourself up. No punching yourself in the head, Amy.
but hearing it out of your mouth, like educating, why that is, not just say, I keep seeing Grove Collaborative keeps posting and people keep saying, only 9% of plastic is actually even recyclable. It's just, it's better. That's good to know. Like, that's a big deal to know. But just,
Well, that's not quite right. So only 9% of single-use plastic water bottles are recycled. That's what that number refers to.
ooh,
No, I got that wrong. 20% of single-use water bottles are recycled. 9% refers to the amount of overall plastic that's recycled in our country. And that means of all the 100% that is thrown into a blue bin, only 9% of it is effectively recycled. So, and that is almost exclusively the PET, the polyethylene terephthalate, the number ones. So there's so many things that once you start digging into this, you will find is, we can't recycle our way out of the situation. And absolutely, that is what industry wants you to understand. They want you to believe that it's okay if you are going to buy a plastic water bottle that has, like, basically tap water with a nice label on it. That's okay, because you can just throw it in a blue bin and it's recyclable. Well, I am here to tell you that even though I'm not an expert, this is the truth. Almost every single piece of plastic is recyclable. It is able to be recycled, including number 6. However, it's not recycled. There's no infrastructure, there's no market, there's no mechanism. We have curbside single stream collections that contaminate virtually every stream that you could make money off of. We have a very inefficient recycling and solid waste system in this country, and most of it has to be landfilled or incinerated. So really dig deep if you care. Get involved with your municipal solid waste district. Figure out what your town's doing. Talk to the vendors. It's a full-time job. I can't do it all, but I definitely encourage people to get involved. So
yes. Oh my goodness, yes. And it's just so good to understand, understand deeper, like why that is. But so I know we just have a few minutes left, but I did want to. So I wanted. Let's see. Words, Amy. This month of July has a nickname. There's like what? Oh my gosh, what is the word that I want?
a meme.
Thank goodness for editing. The Plastic Free July motto.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Theme.
Thank you. So with the theme, one of the themes for this month of July is Plastic Free July. I wanted to be sure to get Laura on because she is so knowledgeable, and just, I learned so much just from being her friend. I feel smarter just by knowing you. And so I wanted to try to set it up so that we could air this during Plastic Free July, because it is so important. And so we have, let's see, we've got about a minute and a half left, Laura. Sorry, I squeezed you out, but just if you wanted to just speak about. So I just wanted this podcast is to give people a platform to speak about something that means a lot to them. So is there something that you would want to share in this last little bit about sustainability that is near and dear to you?
Well, for the month of July being Plastic Free July, which is something that started like 5 or 10 years ago in Australia, it's a way to bring attention to something that we've become so inured to. We don't really think about it that much here in the United States because it's so easy and convenient to go to Dunkin' Donuts and grab a nice coffee. But I think the the focus on Plastic-Free July is really interesting because it allows us on a day-to-day basis, and you can find a lot of information online if you just type in Plastic-Free July, of how to make small changes that actually can make an impact in your own life. And a lot of that is behavior change, because we get into our habits and they work for us. That's life. But if we challenge ourselves a little tiny bit and we make little changes here and there, you can really make a difference. And I encourage people to check out all the suggestions that are associated with going plastic free or zero waste.
I wanted to just make sure that I was able to get you on for this month, Laura, because it is, one of the themes of this month is Plastic Free July. And because you're so knowledgeable about that, and I learned so much just from knowing you, this podcast is sort of a platform for people that know more than me to share their information. So I'm giving you a platform right now, Laura, to talk about whatever is important to you around sustainability that just gets your juices going. So the time is yours. What would you like to say?
Thank you, Amy, so much for this platform, honestly. I do love that there are people around the planet trying to bring attention to the issue of plastics. Plastic is an incredible product. It's an incredible material, and it can be so useful in many applications. It can endure for decades, and in that sense, it's really useful for construction or medical equipment or other areas of our consumer-based life that require long-lived things. But the one thing that plastic is that makes it so excellent, its durability, also makes it a real problem if it escapes our control. So when we are done with something that we've used once, and we put it somewhere to get rid of, so-called throw it away or recycle it, then we have no more control over it. And it goes into a system that is very leaky at best. And Plastic Free July is kind of a great opportunity for people to learn a little bit more about what it would mean to be plastic free. It's virtually impossible for anyone on the planet, including people in parts of the world that are not as industrialized as the United States, to function without plastic. And that's because the saturation level is so great here on Earth. And we, as individuals, can do lots of things to either modify our behavior and use less plastic, or just make decisions about, at any given point, about what we're purchasing or what our actions are. So it's a luxury for us. We live in a very highly developed nation. We are, the largest consumer on the planet. We have trade agreements around the world with vendors and for manufacturing and for trading goods and services. We are in the bread belt of the planet. And yet, as an individual, it can be super overwhelming to try to affect change. That's why Plastic Free July it narrows it down into a month. You get to pick your day. You get to follow along with other people who are trying to guide or suggest or make recommendations. And you can do that from anywhere, as long as you have access to a computer or a podcast. And you can talk about, on a daily basis, small steps that can be making a difference in your life or in the planet's health. For example, I think today is Monday. So for us, that's either Microplastics Monday or Mythbuster Monday. So you can go to our Instagram, CCS Debris Brigade, or you can go to the Center for Coastal Studies website and look up Plastic Free July. And there are all kinds of other places that are participating in this theme this month. There are a lot of great people doing great work about this issue of plastics and trying to help us all modify our behavior, understand the problems, and feel better equipped to handle them. So I really encourage people to take advantage of sharing the knowledge that they've obtained themselves. Like you, Amy, you're so good at sharing information, like where to find shampoo that doesn't come in a plastic bottle. I love my bar shampoos that I've heard about from you, and I've tested a whole bunch of them, and They all come in great little cardboard boxes or wax paper bags. And it's happening everywhere. People are tuning in to this real effort to get rid of the stupid plastic that we don't need and just really, get back to basics in some ways. So I really hope that people have a good time with it. Go zero waste for the month. There's only 10 days left. You can do it. And, see what happens. See what it's like to use toothpaste powder instead, that comes in a little jar instead of a tube of toothpaste, which is a plastic tube that can't be recycled. So I really hope that people are jazzed up by this because it can be fun. You find cool products that made by companies like let's see, Amy's Jams comes in a beautiful glass jar. But I think it's really an opportunity to take advantage of this plastic-free July theme. And thanks a lot for giving me a chance to trumpet it.
I love it. Yes, and just another great option for plastic-free is reusable bags for like sandwiches. All you people who eat sandwiches, there are reusable bags that you can use, and they're actually pretty cool, and they will last you a long time.
Or tinfoil, or wax paper, or beeswax.
Yes.
Or stainless steel tin.
There's so many options that are not
yeah.
For your lunch. Anyway, that's so amazing. That's so perfect. It's just educate yourself, understand why, and understand what your responsibility is. That's everything. That's thank you. Podcast over. But so Laura, you've given so much information for folks, and I want people hopefully to be super inspired and be like, I want to know more about this lady and what she is doing. So how would people I'm gonna post this information in the show notes, but I'd like to have you say it. How can people find you and follow what you're doing and learn about Mythbuster Monday or Microplastics Monday and all the other days?
Oh, well, we have a couple ways that we're trying to get the word out, Amy. We have a very new Instagram page called, I work at Center for Coastal Studies, so it's called CCS Debris Brigade. And we called it that because I have over 250, almost 300 volunteers that just have self-selected who want to be part of my beach brigade, where we clean beaches, we count trash, we sort debris. We are a bunch of people that really care about getting the trash organized and off the beach and into the database. So Debris Brigade, CCS Debris Brigade is our Instagram. And then our website is coastalstudies.org. And you can look up the Marine Debris and Plastics Program. That's my program. And, it's a website, so it's not that, dynamic. But if you Google around, you'll find our beach cleanup schedule. You'll find some plastic-free July information. And, anytime you're in Provincetown, join us. We would love to have you guys.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. Well, gosh, Laura, this is just what I needed today. Thank you so much for your time.
I want to put your video back on so I can see you.
I want to just take a quick second and thank my guest again. I also need to thank Buzzsprout for hosting the podcast and Jane Bolduck for her amazing music.
There'll come a day, my mama told me, when I find love to have and hold me, a heart that's strong and so sincere. Just tell me, how do I get there from here? Oh, tell me, how do I get there from here? 'Cause here and now I'm so far down that mercy's bound to find me. We'll find a way to soothe the sickness, will heal the hate. Ooh, with sweet forgiveness. Wages of war will disappear. Just tell me, how do I get there from here? I wonder, how do I get there from here? Yeah, 'cause here now I'm so far down, and mercy's bound, yeah, to find me. When that state of grace has finally found me, will there be music, ooh, and good friends around me? Yeah, yeah. And I'll just smile through happy tears and wonder, how did I get there from here?